For years, Lizzy Savetsky was celebrated as a lifestyle influencer, inspiring her followers with her unique blend of fashion, family, and faith. However, the events of October 7th marked a turning point as Lizzy transformed her platform into a powerful voice for Israel and her Jewish heritage.
Now in Israel, to receive a presidential award for her extraordinary efforts, Lizzy reflects on the emotional journey that reshaped her life and the challenges she bravely faced along the way. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you, Lizzy.
It's an honor to be here in studio with both of you beautiful ladies. Thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to be in Israel.
It's an honor to have you here, seriously. What you have done for this country is amazing.
Well, thank you so much.
Amazing. Lizzy, being in Israel with your family on October 7th must have deeply impacted you. How did that influence your decision to advocate so much for Israel?
You know, I had started advocating for Israel on my platform a couple years, like 2.5 years before October 7th, during the conflict in Gaza in 2021, when Hamas sent a barrage of rockets to Israel. I was shocked to see how immediately upon Israel's response, so many of my peers on social media in the fashion space and the lifestyle space who had never been to Israel, had never been to the Middle East, who knew nothing, jumped to demonize Israel. And I just felt like there was this void. I didn't see anyone in my position speaking up to defend Israel. And so I made a decision one specific day in May of 2021 to commit my platform to defending the truth for Israel. And there was really no turning back after that because I suffered a lot of consequences. And it became clear to me that I either had to pretend like that never happened, or I was going to have to just completely pivot and shift my focus completely to Israel and the Jewish people. So being here in Israel on October 7th, as I was sitting in the bomb shelter with my family, I looked at my husband and I said, we know exactly what is going to happen. The minute that Israel responds, and it was actually even before Israel responded, the world will demonize Israel, and then Jews all over the world are going to suffer a wave of anti-Semitism like we've never seen before. And I knew from that moment in the bomb shelter that I was going to be very busy, that I had a lot of work ahead of me.
And speaking, Lizzy, speaking of the consequences, how has your relationship with your audience involved since you began openly advocating for Israel? Have you encountered support or backlash maybe you didn't anticipate?
So in 2021, when I first made the big shift, I lost a ton of followers. I think it was like 30,000. I got dropped by my management company at the time, not because they were anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, whatever that means. It was because I was no longer marketable. They couldn't sell me to any brands because I was too controversial, because I was speaking up on behalf of the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. But thankfully, I sort of had that big purge 2.5 years before October 7th. So by the time October 8th rolled around, people knew, oh, Lizzy, this is what Lizzy does. She speaks up for the Jewish people. She's going to be telling us what's the latest that's happening in Israel. She's there now. And so I was actually seeing a flood of followers come in following October 7th. So it's been, I just have to say, like, although it was hard in the beginning and there was a bit of an identity crisis, there is no better feeling than walking in your truth and standing firmly in your values. And if you lose something for doing that, then was it ever even really worth having?
Yes, indeed, and you gained also a lot of followers and other things. I want to ask you, you fight consistently against anti-Semitism and even have been lecturing extensively over the past year about it, as we know. It's almost a rhetorical question, but I must ask, have you personally faced an incident driven, that is driven by anti-Semitic motives?
You know, it's so interesting because when I started advocating against anti-Semitism, I had only experienced minor implicit forms of it. And so I didn't have that personal experience. Like my husband, now he's a plastic surgeon in New York, and he takes care for free of anyone who is a victim of an anti-Semitic violent attack. Unfortunately, he's been very busy because there have been so many. But in the past year, my family has received so many death threats. We have our own file with the FBI. We have had the police at our apartment more than we've had our friends over. We have been consistently targeted because of the work that I do.
Terrifying.
We get letters in the mail with threats. My husband was getting to his office over 1,000 phone calls with the most vicious messages that you've ever heard. And I just can't believe that this level of evil exists in the world and that it is targeting me and my family simply for existing as a Jewish person.
That's crazy. And you're in Israel receiving an award from the Israeli government. It's such a significant honor. What does that mean for you as a personal and a public figure?
It's surreal, honestly, because I never in a million years thought that my life would go in this direction. This was not the life plan. I did not go to school to study how to be an advocate for Israel. But it just felt like an urgent obligation or responsibility that I have. And the award was actually called the Voice of Iron. And I have said repeatedly throughout this past year that my only weapon in this vicious war of propaganda is my voice. And I feel so grateful that I have an audience that listens to me, that amplifies my voice, but that's all I have. So it's never been a question for me whether I would speak up or not. I just always felt like a sacred responsibility that I have to my ancestors who could only dream of walking in the land of Israel. And to now we get to have this sacred place. And also to my children that will inherit this land and will, God willing, carry the torch that I'm trying to use to light the way. So it's been a very surreal feeling. I would speak up no matter the recognition, but I'm truly humbled by the award.
That's amazing. And tell me, what were some of the most unexpected challenges you experienced on your platform, on your social media, due to the events of the 7th of October?
I think in a way it sort of felt like the Wild West. I'm from Texas, so, cowboys. None of us had a manual for how to advocate on social media. We've all sort of been making it up as we've gone, When I started my Instagram platform, I was talking about accessories, earrings and shoes, whatever was in style. I never thought that that would be the vehicle to spread the truth for Israel. So I've definitely learned a lot over the past few years with what works and what doesn't. I think that the hardest challenge is not reacting to the hate, because it's our human instinct whenever we see this vitriol thrown our way to react, to respond. And I've learned, especially this past year, that it's just, I only have so much time and energy. And I would much rather use it to empower my own people than to fight these people who are going to hate me no matter what, because they don't care about the truth.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the hardest challenge, is kind of just keeping my own gut instinct
Sanity.
in check. Yeah, yes.
So you share with us about the threats earlier, threats you got, and the police that came to your house. I want to ask you, how does your family, how did your close friends and the close circles react to your activism?
Thank God my family is behind me 100%. We're really a family of activists. We were all here on October 7th in the bomb shelter. I did not know how to parent through that. And I'm not just an activist, I'm a mom. And I think about my children and their future as Jews in America, with anti-Semitism reaching record heights, and if there's going to be a place for them. And I didn't know how to help them really process the trauma that they experienced here in Israel and the things that they were hearing about. You know, my 11-year-old daughter came to me and said, "Mommy, what is rape?" To have these conversations that nothing can prepare you for something
Being here
like
on
that.
the 7th of October with your children, experiencing that, yeah?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there was no world where I ever thought that. I think I was very naive. I always thought that Israel was just the strongest country in the world, and it is, but I never understood the real vulnerability and how, and so it was shocking for everyone. So the only thing that I knew how to do as a mom was to put my kids to work and make them feel like they're a part of the solution. And so we've really been a family of advocates, all of us. And I wouldn't be able to do it without them. My husband is he's my researcher. He's reading everything. We have a meeting every morning at 6 a.m. where we talk about what video I'm gonna make that day. And thank God they've been so supportive. And we try to shield the children as much as possible from all of the hate in the world. But the reality is we live in New York City and we see these protesters in the streets almost every day with waving the, flags of jihad. And I want them to be so deeply rooted in who they are as Jews that they feel proud in the face of all of that hate. And I think it is comforting to them to know that their mom is devoting her entire life to fighting on behalf of our people.
I'm sure they're very proud of you.
They wish I was around more, but they are. Thank God. Thank God they're very, very supportive.
So tell me, in the recent U.S. elections, you chose to openly share your political views with your followers. What motivated you to take that step?
I never thought that I would be talking about politics especially in such a controversial, heated time on my Instagram platform. I had never discussed anything political before.
I remember.
But I had just had it. I was so tired of seeing these protesters take over our campuses, take over the streets of my city, my children clinging to me every time we walk out of our apartment because they're scared, and seeing nothing done about it. In fact, hearing both our president and our vice president sympathize with the protesters, say that they have a point, say that they're expressing exactly what the human emotion should be. That's what Kamala Harris said. And I just was, I couldn't stay silent. And, for me, it was never about endorsing a person. It was about endorsing the policies. And nobody can deny the good work that President Trump did for the state of Israel when he was president in his first term. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, acknowledging Jerusalem as Israel's eternal capital, the Golan Heights, all of these things that American presidents said they would do and didn't, and he got the job done. So as much as he can be crass and bombastic, he gets the job done. He takes action. And that, for me, felt like an urgent thing to use my voice to promote. And I also wanted to destigmatize voting for Donald Trump, because there was so much stigma around that and people getting canceled for being associated. And I wanted to say, hey guys, I may not love everything about this man, but I'm going to vote for him, and here's why. And it's okay if you want to do the same.
Yes, and it can be a turning point against the anti-Semitism in the U.S. So Lizzy, I want to ask you, you spent here in Israel a significant amount of time, even on October 7th, as we heard. And you've shared that despite the trauma, you sometimes feel here safer than elsewhere. So have you considered making Aliyah?
I think about it every day, all the
Really?
time. And I hope that my story ends here at home in Israel. This is the only place that I want to be. And right now I have an important job to do back home in America for the Jews there, but there's no place in the world that's better or more where my soul feels home. Israel's the only place.
We are waiting for you, Lizzy Savetsky. Thank you so much for joining us and for this interview.
Thank you
for
so
being
much
here
for
today.
having me.
Thanks.